AHK in order. A is in front of the function. Let me scroll over here to the left so we can put this into form. You have three major functions you have to be able to deal with. Wrong way. Quadratic, absolute value, square root. Now, is that everything you're going to see on a test in the next week or no, 2 weeks? No. You have piecewise function. And again, the graphs are multiple choice. And linear. The piecewise function is made out of linear. Y equals mx plus b. But it's about seeing the substitutions. You need to know that when you have something to the second power, a square, it's this shape. You need to know that pattern, A, parentheses, x minus h, inside the parentheses, that's where h lives. H lives in the parentheses with the x, always. H is inside the square root with the x. H is inside the absolute value with the x. If there's an h, it has to be contained inside that function with the x. If there is an h. So if you have an x all by itself with nothing inside with it, then h is 0. H can be 0, k can be 0. A can be a 1. There'll be a lookup of those. So you have to know those basic parent functions by heart. Because what you want to be able to do, as soon as I see this problem over here, I know I'm supposed to basically pick out, like I'm at a police lineup looking for the person who stole my backpack. I got a good look at them, so they do a police lineup. So everybody's lined up, and I'm trying to figure out who was there. There's an A parentheses x minus h squared plus k. If I put them in order, I can identify above it which one everybody is. There's a lot of suspects. But you need to just basically break it down that much. That's the most important piece. Because it tells us everything we need to know. It gives us everything we need to know to do the graph. And here's what I'm trying to really drive home. People struggle with graphing. Not because it's, no, they believe it's hard. But they put that block into it. They put that mental block, that hurdle that they won't go over, because I think everybody can go A, H, K, because that's alphabetical. Between now and your test and for the rest of your life, you should know that we have these letters, A, H, K, that are going to be involved here. I think I've said them in the last 2 days, probably about 1,400 times. Not 1,400, maybe 140. Give or take. But they're incredibly important. They tell us where the graph is going. They tell us what that's going to do. So A is this in front of the function. It's a square, so it's a parabola. If I see just a negative, I can't just have a negative and not have an A. This would have to be a negative what? It's a -1 times that at the parentheses. Because when you do -1 times something, it's just negative. -1 times 6 is just -6. We don't leave the 1. -1 times 6 is -6. But what is this? There's a -1. How did it become a -6? Because we multiplied by -1. It changed the sign. Every negative you have could be written as a -1 times. I need to know what A is so I know how to graph it. So if I just see a negative in front, A is a -1. Now, if I saw a -2, then A is -2. If I saw a -1/2, then A is a -1/2. That's different. But if I just see a negative, then the only way we're going to have a negative there is if it's -1 times that absolute value. Or sorry, that square, that parentheses. X minus H4. So what is H? +4. That negative is already part of the function. It's already part of the parent function. It's already part of the basic equation. So it's already there. So what do you plug in for H to keep it a minus? You plug in +4. So when you take H out of that parentheses, you're taking out, I see a negative, I'm taking out the opposite sign. I see a -4, H is a +4. It's the, for H, opposite sign. Okay. And it's in all of these, there's a built-in negative. X minus H. X minus H, X minus H. That means the horizontal shift is going to go the opposite direction of what you see in the equation. If I see +2, it's going to shift 2 to the left. It's going to go to the negative direction. If I see -3, it's going to go 3 to the right. -3, I'm thinking, well, minus, I'm going to go, because minus is this way. It's the opposite direction. -3 means I'm going to go 3 to the right. Because H is +3. In this case, it's +4. We're going to go 4 to the right. Plus K, so you don't change the sign for K. Keep the sign. So K is a +3. The vertex is the ordered pair, H and then K, alphabetically. That's kind of nice. I can't write K for some reason. So 4, 3. Yeah. When we do 1.6, you're going to be responsible for substituting numbers or whatever into functions. Substitution. Okay, you did a pretty good job with your quiz. Okay. I have to see the substitution, then the simplification. I want to see the substitution, then the simplification. So for f of 2, I would want to see f of 2 is equal to, there's a negative, inside 2 minus 4, and then you're going to square it, and then +3. And then order of operation takes over. I noticed that some people did 2 minus 4 times 2 minus 4 and then distributed. They multiplied it out, FOILed it. And guess what? It worked because it's supposed to. It has to. It's always going to work. But because it's just numbers, we can just do the order of operations. F of +2, there's a negative in front, inside 2 minus 4 is -2. And then you're going to square it, and then we add 3. So you do the parentheses first, and then f of 2 is equal to, there's still a negative here. This -2 squared, a -2 times a -2, that's a +4. So there's a negative in front. So the opposite of this is -4. +3. So f of 2 is -1. That's what I would want to see. Now here's where it didn't go so well. I saw the substitution and I saw this written out. And then I saw like a little bit of, oh, look at that, got a 1. The work has to be neat, has to be legible, has to be clean, because if I don't see how you got from A to B, then I'm not gonna be able to give you the credit that you did to get you, actually, in this case, from A to C or A to D. And then F of -2. So -2 goes in. So there's a negative in front. X minus more becomes -2 minus more, and then you're gonna square it, and then we have 3. And these questions right here, these are the freebies. These are the happy questions because it just substitute simplify. If you had a whole test of these, and you're gonna have a lot of these questions, there's a little bit more of a complication to this because we take it to the 1.6 level, section 1.6. But it's substitute simplify. So F of -2, there's a negative in front, but you have to do this first. -2 minus 4, that's -6 squared, and then plus 3. So F of -2, there's a negative here. This -6 squared is positive 36. So it's the opposite of 36 and then plus 3. So F of -2 is -33. Substitute, simplify. So for this first problem, this is what we ended up with. This is all the information that we gathered. We have the A, the H, and the K. We have the A. A is -1. So when I graph the parabola for the square, is it going to be open up or is it going to flip upside down? It's going to be flipped upside down. So here's what my brain is assessing when I graph this. As soon as I saw that this was a square, I know it's going to be a parabola. It's going to be a parabolic shape. The next thing on my checklist, A is a -1. Okay, so it's not going up. If A is negative, I know I got to flip it upside down. So again, it's multiple choice on the graph. I'm looking for the upside down parabola. I got to eliminate all the ones that are going up. And that's how you pass a lot of multiple choice tests. Process of elimination. It can't be that one, it can't be that one. Then find a vertex. We found the H, we found the K. So we have a vertex at 4, 3. We have a vertex at 4, 3. I also found that F of 2 was -1. What did I plug in? I plugged in 2, but who is the 2?
X.
It's the X. And the -1 that came out is my
Y.
Y. So this 2 goes in, -1 comes out. That's an XY. On this graph is also 2, -1. And this -2 went in, we got -33. Also on the graph is -2, -33. Out of just this equation, we got all this information. We're going to come back to that. Absolute value. So first thing I'm thinking about, I see that kind of a function. Absolute value. I know the shape of this absolute value. It's made, the function itself has 2 straight lines. So I know the graph is, first of all, it has, the name is an absolute. Keep telling you about It's spelled absolute value, and the V looks exactly like the name or the shape of the graph. Okay, it looks like this. What's the A in front? Okay. It's a 2. Is it positive or negative? Positive. So you know it's going to go up. Okay. And I did write the name right above where I need a little bit of room because I'll play that little police lineup. G of X is equal to A, absolute value inside of X minus A, and then plus K. So what is the H in there?
-5.
-5. You see plus, so H is -5. It's been shifted. This graph is going to shift 5 to the left. And then plus K, so the K is a
-6.
-6, and the vertex ordered pair, -5 and -6. Fine. You find all the pieces of the puzzle. Put the pieces on the table, you want to find where's the part with the horse's head, where's the part with the horse's butt, where's the part with the horse's tail. I need all those parts over here because I want to put the horse together. It's always a built-in negative. So when I see plus, it's the opposite sign. In here, this would have to be written as X, it's already a minus, so I would have to plug in -5 to get that plus. That's why H is the opposite sign. You're 10. If I substitute 10, I get 2. Absolute value 10 plus 5. And then -6. Absolute values are not. They're not parentheses, which means you don't distribute into absolute values. They are grouping symbols, but it's a function. You have to do what's inside first. So G of 10 is 2 times the absolute value of 15 minus 6. So G of 10, 2 times 15 minus 6. What's 2 times 15? 30. That's a 30. 30 minus 6 is 24. So when 10 goes in, we get 24. And then G of -10. Substitution, it's 2 times absolute value, -10 plus 5. And then a -6. So G of -10 G of -10 is 2 times -10 plus 5 is -5. And then take away 10. So G of -10 is equal to 2 times what? What's the absolute value of -5? 5. Positive 5 minus 6. So G of -10 is equal to 10 minus 6. So G of -10 is equal to positive 4. So A was equal to 2, so we know it's going up, and we know the vertex is at -5, -6. And we also have the ordered pair. When we plugged in 10, I shouldn't hear you all the way up here. Oh. And then when I plugged in -10, 24, Negative 10, we got negative positive 4. H of x equals negative square root x plus 3. So we know it's a square root. So we're trying to match things up with h of x equals something times the square root. Inside is x minus h, and then after that we have a plus k. So negative square root x plus 3. So what is a? Negative 1. Okay? It would be negative 1 times the square root. Yeah. The shape of a square root. The graph of the square root looks like this. It looks like the radical sign. So if there's a negative in front, it's going to flip across the x-axis. It's going to reflect across the x-axis, so it's going to flip this way. So instead of going up to the right, it's going to flip down to the right. We're not going to flip left. It could, but that's a different kind of a change. H lives with x. H moves the x left or right. So there's something under the radical with the x. So what does h equal? -3. There's a built-in negative every time for h. So whenever you take the h out, it's the opposite of what you see. So that's x plus 3, h has to be -3. I see plus 3, h is -3. K is after the function. K comes outside of the square root. So what are we adding or subtracting out here? 0. There's nothing out here. But there's always something out here. We can put a number there. Technically, it's plus 0. K is 0. There has to be something there. I'm going to need an order pair. I have to have an order pair so I can graph it. So just because I don't see a number, you could have 0. Because it would simplify, and it would be square root, negative square root x plus 3 plus 0. Negative square root x plus 3 plus 0 is just negative square root x plus 3. It doesn't mean 0 wasn't there, but that's the vertical shift, k to the 0. So our first point, hk, -3, 0. And that makes sense because we know h is -3, so it's going to shift 3 to the left. How many up and down? I don't see a k, so it's not going up and down at all. It's just -3 to the left. And it's going to be at y equals 0. So we substitute. Negative in front. Actually, I'm going to put it up here because I want to put it closer to the function. H of -2 is equal to a negative square root x plus 3. So -2 plus 3. So h of -2 is equal to a negative still. What's -2 plus 3? +1. So that's the square root of 1. What's the square root of 1? 1. So negative, that's equal to 1. So -1. So when -2 goes in, we get 1. We can't take the square root of a negative number. That doesn't mean we can't plug in a negative number. It just means we can't take the square root of a negative. So if I tried to plug in 4. If I tried to. F of negative 4, that wouldn't work. Negative 4 plus 3. That would be negative square root negative 1. I can't plug negative 4 into that function, which means negative 4 is not in the. It wouldn't be in the house of the numbers that get to go into the function. That house is called. It's not allowed in that club, and that club is called. If I can't use a number in the function, then that number is not part of the functions. Wow, it's like right on the quiz. Question 2. Find the domain. Negative 4 is not in the domain. Because when I plug in negative 4, it makes the function undefined. You can't take square root of a negative. What is in the domain? Anything greater than negative 3. F of 6 or H of 6. So H of 6, negative square root x plus 3. So negative square root 6 plus 3. So H of 6 is negative 6 plus 3 is 9. What's the square root of 9? 3. So H of 6 equals a negative, and the square root of 9 is 3. So when 6 goes in, we get negative 3. That's one. I concluded that I'm not getting enough exercise, so they gave me these to give me a workout. That's okay. Be great if I actually had some cartilage in my shoulder and chin. HVACs. There's point at -3, 0. And what do we get? Yeah. A was equal to -1, so we can grab it, it's going to be down like that. And we also have -2, 1 is on the ground, and 6, 3 is on the ground. This one causes so much pain. Not so much real pain, it's just that it's starting to see things that aren't there and looking past what actually is. So J of X is 2x squared minus 2. A, H, K. And -2, 0. J of X. Well, first of all, it's a square, so it's a parabola. It's a quadratic. So it's going to be this shape. The basic graph. A absolute, or sorry, A parentheses x minus h squared and then a plus k. So what's the a? 0. So if I had 0, 0, and then x minus h squared. Well, whatever happens here, and I multiply by 0, I get 0. A can never equal 0. Because if a was 0, the whole square part goes away. So a cannot equal 0, okay? What is in front? A is always in front of whatever's being squared. A is always in front of whatever's being squared. So A is what? 2. A is the coefficient of the square. H is inside parentheses. So if you're going to have an H, you have to have parentheses. If you're going to have an H, it would be added or subtracted from the X. Do you see a parenthesis? So what is the H? 0. H is 0. Think about it. X minus h squared, and down here I just have 2x squared. So A is in front of what's being squared. So A is in front of what's being squared. So A is that 2. Now, inside the parentheses, x minus some number squared just gives me x squared. Well, to just get x by itself, it would be 2 times x minus 0. Because x minus 0 is how we just get x. X to the second is just x. So if you don't see a parentheses around that x to the second, h has to be 0. If you don't see something added or subtracted from the x inside the function, inside of parentheses, inside the absolute value, if you just see absolute value of x and nothing in there added or subtracted, h is 0. If you just see square root x and nothing added or subtracted inside the square root with the x, then h is 0. Okay? So when I said this one's painful, that's what I mean by painful. Seeing things that aren't there. There's nothing in there. But people see stuff that's in there. Because they're used to seeing something in there, so they want to put something in there, and it's not. It's got to be in a parentheses in order to have that h before the square happened. So that means this -2 is the what? It's the k. The k comes after the square has happened. Here's the square. K comes after the square has happened. It comes after the function. K comes after you've taken the absolute value. So K is not going to be in the absolute value. So if the absolute values happen, is I have absolute value and then plus 2, that's a K, not an H. On the last one, this is inside the square root with x, so that's an H. But if I had square root x and then -4, that's a K, not an H, because it's not inside the square root with the x. And this is where, you know, if you're not neat about how you write things out, and you do this, it's going to look like that 4 is underneath the radical. I don't know what that is. It might be an H, could be a 4. It can't be both. But the way it's written, it might be interpreted as either one. Some of you don't give a damn about how your handwriting looks. You just don't give a damn. First of all, it annoys me because I got to But it annoys me because it's sitting back. You're not seeing the mistakes you're making because you can't see it. You're either writing so small, so you can't see them, or you're writing so small and so messy that you're not bringing down negatives when there were negatives, or you're making negatives up because you thought there was a negative. You're multiplying when you didn't see that it was addition. Because you're writing a 4 instead of a 9. You clean that stuff up, and you know what it is? It's just discipline. I'm not gonna do this anymore. Or you keep doing what you're doing. If it's not changing, it's not improving what you're doing. Okay. It's like, what else can I do to help you? This is just little things that you can do to help yourself. K after, so K is -2, so the vertex is at 0, -2. So we're going to plug in -2. So when we plug in -2 here, two times. Now, when I see the substitutions on the test coming up, I want to see just the substitution, then the workout. When you plug in negatives, you got to be really careful to use parentheses. 2 times x squared, so -2 in parentheses. And then you square it, and then you have a -2 after it. So j of -2 is equal to 2 times exponent first. So -2 squared is +4. So it's 2 times +4. And then a -2. So j of -2 is equal to 8 minus 2. So j of -2 is equal to 6. So -2 went in, 6 came out. We plug in 0. J of 0 is 2 times x squared minus 2. So that's 2 times 0 squared minus 2. What is 0 squared? 0. So 2 times 0 and then minus 2. And then j of 0 is equal to 0 minus 2. And 0 minus 2 is just -2. So when 0 went in, we got -2. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, of course we did, because that's a vertex. We have that over parallel. Good thing I didn't get a different number. Did this graph shift left or right? Did it have an H? Or what was the H? H was 0, so it did not shift left or right. Parabolas and absolute values have symmetry left to right. So what is on the left is reflected to the right. Left and right are reflected across the vertex. Since the vertex is at x equals 0, then to the left, to the right, numerically, should be the same. So when I plugged in -2 on the left, I got a 6. So my prediction is when I plug in +2, I should get a 6 on the right. Because of the symmetry. So j of +2 is 2 times 2 squared and then -2. So j of 2 is equal to 2 times, that's 4. minus 2. 2 times 4 is 8 minus 2. K of 2 is equal to 6. When 2 goes in and 6 comes out. Okay. Before we break for 10 o'clock, which one of these do you want to see graphed? Just pick, this was 1, this was 2, that was 3, this was 4.
3.
3. See, the other thing about your graphing, you do get to use a graphing calculator on your test. You can use graph calculator on anything at any time. They moved my projector. Mother. I guess I can do that. Let me punch this in first. So y equals negative square root and it's x plus 3. Okay. So we know that the first point was at negative 3, 0. So right here is negative 3, 0. Then we got the next point was at negative 2. I didn't put the negative when we did these points. I forgot to put the negative in front. These are supposed to be negative. I left the negative off because it was flipped upside down. My bad. Negative 2, negative 1. Or I copied them down one. And then 6, negative 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 3 right here. And for good measure, I went ahead and went to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 should give us 4. 4. What you make? And it's going to go like this. Pop it open. That. That should occur a little bit more. Colors given out. Just go right through there. Hopefully. Oh, it didn't change, it didn't change my life. And it did change my window down, some stuff. I didn't remove my protector. That's what I thought it was. There, just slide it back. Because they, okay, I'm just gonna explain something. Again. On the test, you can always input the graph equation. Graph on your calculator, then find A, B, C, or D, which one is it? But that doesn't mean you don't know, you don't need to know how to identify A, H, and K, because they will always be a part of it, whatever the next step in math is. Always. Because you might just be asked to identify what is A, what is A, what is K. And that's the only part of the question, no graphing involved. A is the coefficient of the function. H is horizontal shift inside the function with the x. K is the vertical shift. And like I told you, number 19 that we'll finish going over at 10 o'clock, you will be graphing by moving ordered pairs, and that's it. Re-identifying ordered pairs like number 19 on the whole. So we'll pick up there at 10. All right, back at 10. If you were late, make sure you come and see me right now because I have to fix that screen. That chair table. If I fall, don't bother with 911, just leave me. Okay, now I do need help. Not getting down there. That white remote, bottom left-hand button, I mean, that's not this. Readjusting the projector doesn't help unless I have the projector on. So the bottom left. AV mute. Now, there we go. Thank you. Up that all the way up to the spine. Okay. This is 19D and E. My hand back to prisoners, respect for board. I am moving the test back one last time. It will be on the 12th. There's just no way I feel comfortable getting all of this today and then only reviewing on Wednesday and then testing on Monday. So the test is Wednesday. Homework is due next Wednesday. Somebody's coffee wrapper from Emmy Sidewalk.